We all strive for the best, the zenith. But while many of us in sim racing may reach our own personal goals, we admire those who run the actual Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars in competition. Tonight, we are going to see just how good everyone is at our first PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series event, sponsored by Porsche. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Nicholas Weatherby is on social media, along with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Let's talk about this new series in PCA Sim Racing, because it's a bit different from our usual series and events. First off, there are two classes, PCA Pro and Pro. The difference being that the PCA Pro are drivers who have had to earn their way into tonight's racing by their solid performance in PCA Sim Racing Series 1 through 7. Some very good drivers will be competing in the upcoming Series 8, which starts March 23rd. A top finish in that is the only way the drivers can get into this series. Then, on the other side, the Pro drivers are just that. These are drivers who may have raced sim racing, but are also members of professional racing teams who are running the GT3 Cup 992 car in 2022. Teams include 311 RS Motorsports, ACI Motorsports, Apoapsis Performance Solutions, Eagles Canyons Racing, Hardpoint Motorsports, and others that will be joining us later in the series. Two gentlemen, Jim Huth and Stephen Kemp, have worked tirelessly to co-develop what looks to be a real exciting series. And on top of it, we're fortunate enough to have Stephen Kemp with us tonight to ask him a few questions. So let's take a little bit of a chat with one of the organizers, Stephen Kemp, as we pull him in. And Stephen, first of all, welcome to the booth and congratulations on seeing this get off the ground. I have to ask, how did you find the time to do all this work on this series and also be president with responsibilities and race in the PCA Sim Racing Club class?
Well, it makes it easier that it's all a passion. It's all things that I'm really excited about. It's a really busy time for the club. We're the Nordstern Club in Minnesota. We're planning all the events for the year, but it's a great team. We have lots of people to help, so it's all fun stuff and a lot of help from the group. The club racing, that'll probably take a little bit of a hit this year. We have a lot of events, and I probably will miss a number of races, but with the support of PCA Sim, if you get any problem with hardware setup or training, there's always someone to help you. It would be really hard to do it if you're on your own, but with everybody helping in PCA Sim, I'll just make the races I can. I'll do the best job I can for the races I can get to.
That makes sense. Well, I mentioned during some of the comments at the intro about PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series. How did this exactly get started?
Well, it was actually a chance meeting where Ryan Gates at 311RS had us over. We had a meeting at his place. He was nice enough to host us, and we just started talking after the meeting about what was going on in motorsports and PCA Sim and Sim. And, like everybody, he had seen the impact of Sim and motorsports, Formula One, IndyCar, and he'd seen it in that GT3 Cup with, Ryan, with Lauren Heinrich, who's in the race tonight, and Dimitri Demakos, just seen the impact of those guys. So he was really interested in Sim, using it to develop his drivers, and wanted a place to race competitively. And at the same time, you guys have seen our pros over the last 3 years. They've gotten so good. And the series format worked great, but they were looking for something more. They were looking for a race every month, open setups, more competitive rule sets. So those two things just seemed like they were coming together. Kind of the PCA Sim guys looking for more motorsports, and the motorsports guys looking at Sim. And, it just seemed like the right time to kind of bring those two groups together. And it happened really quickly. This was, I think, December. It's like just over 2 months this all happened. Once the idea got going, Doug Atkinson and the guys jumped on it. A lot of support, a lot of people pulled it together, but it just seemed like the right time for these two things to come together.
That does sound pretty quick. As someone who's worked with a lot of different leagues over the years, that's pretty impressive. Well, okay, so you've worked with both here, the PCA Sim Racing Series, and these pro teams. What's that like, trying to deal with those two entities?
Well, it's a new thing for these pro teams. It's not something anyone's ever done. So it's been really fun getting to know the teams. They support Porsche racing at all levels. And finding the teams, finding the drivers, some use the sim a lot, some don't. So it's been really interesting getting to know them. A lot of new teams coming in this year, drivers moving around. So it's been really fun getting to know the teams and the racers that are interested in adding this to the way they approach racing.
Yeah, you teased us about there's some additional ones coming in. Is that going to stay a secret? Is there anybody that we can know that we can look forward to?
Well, I probably shouldn't say it, but there's a couple of teams that are really, really interested, but they're looking at their drivers and their schedule, and they want to be a part of it. That have seen it and expressed that they want to be a part of it. They haven't quite figured it out. So there's a couple coming, but there's also, I've seen a lot of new teams that are here this year, and I've looked at their drivers. They've got some drivers that are really good and use the sim. So there's probably a few teams that aren't as well known that I think are going to want to jump in as well. So I think as people see this and they see what it can do for their racing program, I think we'll see more teams jumping in.
Definitely hoping that'll be the case, because this is very cool to see so many real-world drivers get more and more involved. So I've been briefed a little bit on how this is obviously going to be a bit different from some of the usual stuff we've been covering PCA. So what's some of the things the audience should be looking for that's really going to set this apart?
Well, for the drivers, one thing we're not going to do is look at incident points. So you guys have, you saw on the race on Sunday, our team race, incident points kind of played into it. There aren't any incident points. We're not counting them. There's no orange zone. So we've got live corner workers looking at the track limits, and they'll issue warnings and penalties if we need to, but not looking at incident points. We had an open qualifying for this event, which is totally new, more like motorsports. It was a bit of a confusion at the beginning, but they sorted out. These are really high-level drivers, and so that was new, having open qual. The start will be different. It will be controlled by the pole sitter and in a start zone, so that's something very different that we normally don't do. We normally go over the lights. This time, the pole sitter controls the pace. And I think you'll see a lot tighter racing. I've seen passes in practice that I didn't think you could do at Sebring. So you get to see these drivers really getting a lot closer to each other and mixing it up out there.
That is what we want to see, of course. So, well, again, I can't thank you enough for coming in and talking to us to explain a little bit about what's going on, and also for all your hard work for this. And best of luck as this continues on. And again, thank you.
All right, thank you. Enjoy the race.
That was Stephen Kemp, one of the organizers here in this series. And it sounds like we also have one more special guest before we get going on the second race of the evening. This is going to be a name that is familiar to a lot of real-world drivers. Ross Bentley, the author of Speed Secrets, is joining us here tonight, and looking forward to getting to pick his brain as he's now become a little bit involved in this tonight. Ross, welcome here to the booth, and I have to ask first thing, what brings you to the PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series tonight? And it looks like we have a little bit of a delay here, as we'll talk to Ross in just a quick moment. But obviously, this is going to be a lot of fun with, as we've been pointing out, a very different series from what we've seen with PCA Sim Racing, both their Zone Group Challenge, their endurance races, and with their racing series. But before we get to the core of this, why don't we head on over to the track guide presented by GSRC to get a closer look at our track tonight, Sebring. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Well, what better place to hold a sports car race, DJ, than Sebring, especially for Porsche, which has quite a bit of history here.
It certainly does, Joe, and these Porsche Cup cars are going to take to this track wonderfully, but it's not going to be without a fair amount of danger zones around here. Remember, these Cup cars, no traction control, no ABS, and so it's going to be very, very tricky at points to get the power down around this largely flat, bumpy surface. Watch for some areas of concern being maybe down into Le Mans, certainly down through Turn 2, and through the backstretch area as well. Your prime overtaking opportunities, well, that's going to be down into Turn 1, into the hairpin turn as well. Although we have seen some very, very gutsy moves being done down into Cunningham and even into Tower. So it really seems like here today that absolutely everything is on the cards. It's going to be a fascinating race. It's going to be a challenge for the drivers, but it's going to be a treat for the audience.
Well, that is for sure. And another treat for the audience is, of course, the interview we have with Ross Bentley. Looks like we are ready to go for that. So let's pull Ross in and have a little chat. Ross, welcome to the booth. The first question we got for you is what brings you to the PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series tonight?
For me, it's sim racing is awesome. I mean, I just love sim racing. I actually started sim racing more than 15 years ago, actually, and recently have started doing a sim racer academy for sim racers, taking what I've learned from coaching real life drivers and applying it to the sim racing world. So here was an opportunity to sort of, I guess, give back a little bit to the sim racing community by helping out here a little bit tonight and seeing some great racing.
Indeed, and yeah, I second your thoughts about what sim racing has really done for everything. But from what I understand, you're going to be working in race control. Is that correct? That's usually a place that not many people want to be stuck.
Well, I've often said that the worst job in motorsport is the race officials, the race control. But you know, I think it's a challenge to take a look at what drivers do and make a call that's fair and consistent. And from what I've seen, that's what DJ does. So I think I'm just along for the ride here. I get the best view in the house.
Indeed. And tell us a little bit about the speed secrets and some of what you've been doing with this sim training as well. Is there anything unique to this?
Well, I think the big thing is that sim racing and real world racing, it's like 98% the same. You know, there's some very subtle differences there. And obviously the consequences are a little bit different of something going wrong, but it's the same thing. And what I love is that in sim racing, you can do some things and try some things and test yourself in different ways that you can't necessarily do on the track. So I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing, but you know, it's a fantastic training ground for drivers, and it's not just you go from sim racing to real world, but it's now become an end in itself. I think it's fantastic. I think it's only going to grow, and it's a great way to add to motorsport overall.
Absolutely, yeah, I can attest to that. As someone who grew up, you know, obviously watching real racing and now suddenly has made a career on the sim side in a way I did not expect. It's very much its own thing. Speaking of which, I guess I'll go off script a little bit with how much you've now dabbled in the sim world. Any thoughts of getting into that broadcasting side of things?
I think I'm a better coach than I am a broadcaster. I'll leave that to the pros like you. So, what I love though is seeing different. I just really enjoyed what I've been able to watch tonight from this view. So I'm really enjoying that. I do the same kind of thing with some coaching in the Sim Racer Academy program, and it's fantastic to be able to jump car to car, I can push more in sim racing worlds. Love this.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming to talk to us, and thank you for your involvement in the series. And please do enjoy yourself, and feel free to come back.
Oh, I will be back for sure.
That was Ross Bentley, author of Speed Secrets and obviously the Sim Racer Academy. So as we take a look at the warm-up, we are between races. Obviously, this is a 2-race event, and they had the first one, and the second one will be coming up. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Before we do, we want to take a quick mention that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing to get all kinds of cool updates throughout the race itself, as well as between events here. And let's now bring in Rachel Whiteford, who we haven't gotten the chance to chat with yet. Rachel, we've been talking about all the key differences. To me, this sounds like it's going to be a more intense version of what we've been seeing with the Syrian races, with it being a lot more hands-on between the drivers and a lot more hands-off, I guess you could say, with the stewards.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the Porsche Cup car we're running tonight, of course, is a much spicier, as you mentioned, serving from Porsche. This car really does puts the driving in the driver's hands. You mentioned earlier, no traction control, no BS. This is a you get what you give car, which to the driver makes it a lot more fun. And when it's fun, you can't drive at 100% all the time, because you have to control that car. As we're seeing some examples of this right now on the screen, you're wheeling this thing the whole way around the track, which makes for a fun experience and makes for fun racing, because when no one can really drive it to 100, everyone's on about 99, 98 to keep the car in the right direction, you suddenly get so much more action. Everyone's backed up together, they're working around each other, and you end up with a really dynamic, fun environment. How that will be for race control, I don't know. I think it's going to be a busy night for them, but we will see. Hopefully we have a lot of fun. You mentioned we've seen a lot of passing so far. Sebring, it has that street course vibe. And I'll tell you what, one thing. Watching wheel-to-wheel racing on a street course, man, that's amazing. I love it. And this track really has that same vibe to it. Even though it's a huge airfield, it really does have that confined switchback feel, and it produces fantastic racing.
I've kind of felt the same way, especially Sunset Bend, with the way the walls are right there. In turn one, too, DJ, that's one of my concerns about this, is both turn one. I mean, we've seen it at the starts of real world races have issues and whatnot, but that in certain spots can kind of be pinch points around here.
Yeah, they really can, Joe, acting as a funnel, and this is one of those areas in particular down into the hairpin as Dave Craig works his way around it right through there. You know, you can run into almost 3 wide off of Gurney Bend down into there, but it's really a one-way street when you get out, and the same is very, very true for turn 1. You can take 2 wide through that part of the corner and really try to extend it out, either carry some momentum on the high side or take the fastest lane from point A to point B on the inside line. But at the start of the race, when you've got so many drivers bunched up, as you said, it's a real pinch point, it's a real flash point, and whoo, drivers got to be careful as Dave Craig goes for a little bit of a spin.
Yep, this warm-up obviously is mostly just out there for practice. The grid is actually going to be set by the finishing results of race 1. And that, Rachel, I feel is going to really be a big talking point in this one. Because yes, you can pass, but at the skill level we're seeing in this race, being able to overtake can't always be counted on.
Yeah, certainly not. And especially if it's decided by finishing order, it's going to make things really busy. So we're going to do a bit of a touring car style run to that, and it will really shake the dynamic up in the second race, but I'm thinking it could make it exciting too.
Absolutely. And we saw as we were watching on screen there before we came live and started chatting with you how the drivers were having a bit of trouble in places, but still some great racing out there. And there you can see the different colors that you're going to be looking out for the pro drivers and the PCA pro drivers. So for those who are just tuning in or haven't quite sussed out exactly what we're talking about, again, the PCA pro are the sim racers, and the pro drivers are basically the real world drivers that are coming in from the actual cup cars and giving it a go out here this evening. Looks like our grid is now set, though, for this first race. So let's go through your starting order with Lauren Heinrich starting on the pole position, with Rafael Amorim starting from second. Then it's Chris Pies in P3 with Billy Smith in the fourth position. After that, it is Chris Walsh in fifth with Justin Sang in the sixth spot. Jordan Dyer will start from seventh. Rich Minkler will be P8. And it is Arthur Chan starting ninth with Joe Stiffel in the 10th position.
Dimitri Demakos will be lining up in P11, followed by Jacob Schum with Leif Peterson and Bill Anderson behind them. Robert Rose will be starting off in 15th, followed by Grant Talkie with Dave Craig and Cameron Martineau in 18th. Derwin Kostanak is 19th, and Liam Ruziditz rounds out your 20-car field.
They're going to wait for the pace car to take off here in a moment. It's pretty decent conditions, thankfully. It's not much wind. It's only 83 Fahrenheit on the track right now, so the drivers don't have to worry about too slippery of a track. Just those fearsome bumps here around the old airfields of Sebring. But that start, Rachel, having the driver control the start, that makes such a big difference in series, especially with the rolling start. Kind of its own thing on the roadside. The oval guys are all used to being able to try and pay attention to the start and get the good run. And I have to say, this feels like much more of an American thing to have that rolling starts on the sports car side.
Yes and no, it does happen in European sports car racing as well, so it's a fact that it will come in. It's definitely something the road guys are not as used to, but it can be utilized very much to your advantage depending on how devious you're willing to be and how close the race controls are watching.
Absolutely. They do have a start zone, so they do have to wait until they get within that, but then you have to really be on your toes, make sure and watch where Heinrich is going to take control of the field and start getting on the loud pedal, because he can go anywhere within there, or he can completely wait until they get to the end of the start zone. Then everybody is allowed to go. As we come through the hairpin, one of the spots we're expecting to see a lot of passes down into there, but then coming off of that, you have, DJ, this run down into Cunningham, but you talked about the narrowing up into the third corner. But here to Cunningham, to me, this is where I always, at least when I'm in the car, this is kind of a danger zone coming into Collier. This is, I guess, the sort of street course field that Rachel was talking about.
Yeah, very much so. The turns here become very sort of 90 degrees. There you can see going through Cunningham right there, down through the Collier curve. The walls start to close in a little bit on you. This is the area of the track that if you're not careful, you're going to find yourself off into the grass, and there is Armco right there that is just willing and ready to grab you into another 90-degree turn here into Tower. And then it starts to open up a little bit as you make the run through Bishop Bend and down into Jean de Bienne. The track opens up, barriers open up a little bit, and it feels a little bit safer. But those 2, 3, 4 sequence of corners there, Joe, definitely a danger zone to watch out for.
So depending on who you're rooting for, we've got an even mix on the front row with one pro and one PCA pro up there. Amorim and Heinrich both representing. So we'll see who gets into the first turn first here on the start, as they now come onto the Ullman Straight. And then once they're out of Sunset Bend, the pace car will peel off, and it will be up to Heinrich to decide when to hit the loud pedal. And you can see they are now double file as they are ready to go. I wonder if after that first race, the nerves are completely gone, or is anybody feeling the jitters here, especially some of those pro racers maybe being less familiar with the sim? Are they feeling themselves starting to get a little bit anxious? Are the PCA pros maybe worried being up against some of their heroes that they've watched race, whether out at the track personally or on TV? And the pace car getting ready to duck off. There it goes. Heinrich now has control of the field. Barney holds the green flag, and there it is. Green flag is out. Heinrich is off. It's a poor start for Amram, and unfortunately, he's able to pinch off Billy Smith, who has to back off, and Chris Pye is looking to second place down to the inside of the first corner. Almost gets there, but he has to slow down as he can't quite get the run. And DJ, it looks like we're clean through turn one.
We are indeed. Billy Smith now looking to challenge Chris Pies through that second, third turn as they go around a lot of side-by-side coming up into the Gurney Bend. But here they go. Everybody nice and clean. One car off in the back. I think that's Rick Minkler.
Looks like Rich is able to make it back onto the track, but losing a lot of positions. We're watching on board. Billy Smith under threat behind him. Chris Walsh taking a look. Oh no! And a big slip up, and that's going to take 3 cars off Dyer, Walsh, and Sang, Rachel.
Oh, that was huge. Massive there for the storyline. Let's see what happened to those guys if we can in a second, but that really changed things up here. That's going to really change the spacing. We have a lot of guys now further back from that incident. We've got cars off on the dirt there. I think that might have been a contributing factor, but as they come down here through Big Bend, you'll see this as they dive into the braking zone here. This is where it's going to really be the trouble spot, and he comes in, and it's just that Constantine. Oh, he got on the dirt to the inside, and Skittles. It was bowling. Like, he just was on the right-hand side there, couldn't turn.
And I think that was Justin Sang who just found himself kind of veering off there as we now hop back to Billy Smith once again, still in 4th position. Smith, one of our PCA pro drivers, and they come onto the Ullman Straight, this time in anger. It looks like Martineau has had an issue, and that actually checks everybody up, as looks like everybody had to scatter to get around him. Thankfully, DJ, I don't think he took anybody with him.
No, he did not, but the Team Hardpoint driver just having an issue coming through Le Mans and Jean de Vienne, and everybody checking up around him, but we keep our eyes focused here on Billy Smith, trying to close in on Chris Pies. Pies also doing a good job in the middle sector of that lap. He had allowed for Rafael Amorim to streak away from him, but he's starting to pull that back a little bit more.
Another little bit of contact between Craig and Schum, unfortunately, down into Sunset Bend. So those two are just off into the marbles and carry on with a little bit of damage. Thankfully, I don't think they actually hit the wall, but just each other for a little bit. Oh, and somebody spinning in the background. Is that Joe? Yeah, that's the 003. He's going to find his way back on as a train of cars starts to overtake him. Rootsitas, and it looks like Bill Anderson trying to give it a go, but he can't quite get through, Rachel.
No, looking for opportunity, but couldn't find a door there. Ruzikis and him just really in a tight spot there. Not going to find the place to do something. We thought there might be some more movement, and maybe passing a little bit of a door-to-door there. 41 in the 003.
Oh, no! Oh!
Oh, Constantina as cars get off the track out of the way, but that got real messy real fast.
That was Grant Talkie. One of our pros, for some reason, was just sideways across the track, and Liam Rootsitas was the one that came out the worst for it. Here's what caused it. I haven't seen this yet. Let's see if we can figure out if this was all on his lonesome. It's starting to look like it because there's nobody nearby. And, yep, DJ, there goes the rear end.
Yep, just outbraked himself a little bit coming into the corner, tried to grab the brake, and that caused the rear axle to lock with those brakes, and so that sent him around. And a lot of those drivers that you saw missing that apex, that's something we've talked about a couple of times, Joe. That's incident fixation. You see a driver off the track, your eyes focus to that, you drift away from your braking line, and that can throw off the whole corner.
Which is pretty much exactly what happened there. As we see both of them carry on, and it looks like Takie's going to have another little bit of an off through Jean de Bienne. That's going to give him a small slowdown penalty, unfortunately, for the time being. And in front of them, there's another massive train starting to form. Looks like Robert Rose and Rich Minkler are in a tight little fight. Looks like Sang in there and Jordan Dyer. So some of our drivers involved in that opening incident, Rachel, trying to find their way back through.
Yeah, which means we're going to have guys who are a little bit faster here, out of position, really giving them an opportunity to race really hard here and shake things up in that mid-pack. But the further they go, the faster people get, so the harder it will become.
And continue to watch this. We had a little bit more contact between Chris Walsh and Derwin Kostanek a little farther up in the 99. They're going to be able to come away from that one. There you see them now through Gurney Bend and into Big Bend. And they finally start to spread out. But this is looking like Rich Minkler might have to play defense, because here comes Justin Sang in the red car. You can see him, the red and white. The 76 does not defend. Justin Sang is not able to get through. Jordan Dyer instead is now on the attack, tries to cut back, DJ, and he's got a good exit.
Oh, and that may be a little bit of a cut course there from Justin Sang. He got very, very aggressive over the curbing, but they're going to be side by side here as they work their way through the Fangio chicane up towards Cunningham. And I think Justin Sang just decided to give up the ghost there. There's a little bit of damage to the left front on that nose. I think he could be suffering a little bit here in the early stages of this race.
Indeed, so Jordan Dyer pops himself into 14th now. He's still got a ways to go. He started this race in 7th, so he is currently down double what he began. And look at our timing screen. You can see a lot of the PCA Pro drivers that are stuck a little bit lower in the field. So the pros certainly representing well up to this point, Rachel.
Yeah, they really are showing a great job here. And the sim is a really weird environment, of course, because guys who've come up to the real world racing sphere, they're very much used to that asset in seat feeling. They used to how the car behaves underneath them. You don't have that all the time with the sim rig, unless you have a motion rig, but even then, it's not quite the same. So you've got people who came up digitally, people who came up in a race seat, and it's two different environments. They both can be incredibly fast, incredibly good racers, but there's going to be advantages to some and disadvantages to others. Both have their pros and cons. I mean, we're going to see different styles really coming from these guys and how they're going to handle the car. So let's also not forget, a lot of the real world racing guys here, in the back of their mind, have that little feeling going, don't bend the car. Don't bend the car.
We're on board with one of the pros, Dimitri Demakos here for 311 RS, who started in 11th up to P5. Also bad news for fans of Dave Craig. He had another incident with Schum going into Sunset Bend that sent Craig into pit lane to take repairs, unfortunately. And carrying along, Billy Smith is the one being chased by Dimitri. Oh, as we got a side-by-side with Leif Peterson a little bit farther down into the field, looking into the Cunningham corner and around the outside. Oh, a spin from Peterson. Arthur Chan is going to be able to pull away, DJ.
Yes, he is, and that's exactly the kind of move there that I think Arthur was hoping for. There wasn't any contact, any aggressive driving there, but he just put him offline, and that is a result of the lack of traction control in these cars. You see here with Peterson, just gets onto the binders a little, or gets onto the gas a little bit too early. That spins the rear tires and sends him right around.
And it's good to see Arthur Chan back in the sim cockpit again. It's been a long time for me. Think about potentially 7 or 8 years ago, I think, since I last saw him, as we follow on board, continuing here with Leif Peterson down into Sunset Bend. Oh, excuse me, this is with Dimitri in P5 now. In the number 11, continuing to chase Billy Smith. And he's going to veer off to the right, now off to the left, as Billy just kind of drifts off over to the right-hand side, does not cover an attack, and doesn't need to, Rachel, as looks like Dimitri is going to have to try again later.
Yeah, not successful this time by, but he's going to keep looking for it, try and find what he can. Oh, yep, that commentator's curse. Sorry.
Billy Smith off in turn 3, and thankfully did not touch the wall. He's going to be able to get it rolling once again. Back to Bill Anderson, who inherits a spot from that, and Billy's actually going to re-enter. Oh, in the midst of a bunch of cars, and in fact cause a bit of an accident. Multiple drivers going around, a full 360 for Jordan Dyer. I think Rich Minkler maybe had a spin in there as well, as we now ride on board with the 70. Looking back, this is Billy Smith looking at Jacob Schum. And then now we've jumped back a little bit here. Nope, we're looking back at Schum once again. They're going to stay in line down into the hairpin. That's Rudzitas, who's managed to get up to 15th. He's able to stay ahead of Grant Talkie.
Yeah, and that is Billy Smith directly ahead of him on that recovery drive, so he really fed himself out right into this big train, and that is such a hard thing to do here, to try to reset yourself when you were focusing one ahead, and very, very surprising to see Billy spin like that. He's a vet here. He knows what he's doing, and I would not have expected that out of him.
Indeed, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, it is the second race. This is just as important to these drivers, and the red mist was down as, we were watching them come into Jean Debienne as we come up to Chris Walsh here in 8th place, the 99, trying to attack on Joe.
Yeah, trying to go for something here, trying to find a way through on this 003. Sunset Bend coming up could be an opportunity here. He's looking to the inside, as the 003 also looks to the inside. No, they're going to be cutting it tight against the wall here. Holding that line, see if we can find anything here for the 99. Gets a tighter line at the inside. Will it be a good run here up towards 1-2? It might be, but it's not going to be close enough yet, as into the inside covers the 003. Covering him hard there up towards turn 1. He looks inside. No, there's a car blocking. 99 goes up the inside. Has he got it? He has, easy.
Oh, but he might get a cut back here. Joe has got a good run, and he decides not to take it as he breaks a little bit early. But all this fighting has allowed Kostenak to start to gain, so it is now a 4-car battle.
Indeed, it is a 4-car train, and this is exactly what we have often come to expect here from Sebring. You see the braking, bringing these cars together. Kostenak here, hoping to see what he can do. Big look to the inside. Is he actually going to send that to the inside of Stiefel? Yes, he is!
Side by side coming out of the hairpin. Derwin still holding on, but Joe is going to have the outside once they hit the braking for Cunningham. This is not going to be good for him. The 190 has the advantage. He sends it in deeper. He makes the apex, and that's going to be Derwin into P8, Rachel.
Yeah, locked that one in nicely here as Joe Stiefel, as apparently he is a stormtrooper. At least as far as we know. Maybe Darth Vader's chasing him. Maybe that's why he's going so fast here tonight. But at the moment, looking towards the front here, looking towards P8, see what he can find on the track here. Anderson up ahead of him is looking pretty tasty right now. But let's hope he hasn't got a stormtrooper's aim.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. I thought you just had a new haircut.
Yeah, could be that. I can't see it though under the helmet.
As we see the Chicago region driver come onto the Ullman straight, still chasing Kostenak to try to get that spot back. Her hearing that Billy Smith unfortunately getting a black flag for that unsafe rejoin. So he is going to have to come down pit lane to serve that. Need to check to see if that is a drive-through. As we are now looking at Chris Pies up to P3. Well, still at P3 rather, where he started this race. Dimitri Demakos just behind him, starting to threaten Dimitri again up from 11th position from where he gridded up and looking to try and step onto the podium.
Yeah, this is a great drive here from Dimitri, and he's doing a really stellar job here to just hound the tire tracks of Chris Pies. He's not being too aggressive too early. We still have 30 minutes left to go in this race, and I think he just is going to be okay here going for a podium. You can see there, that car very, very unstable under braking. I don't think that's necessarily Dimitri. I've seen a lot of drivers sliding around a little bit into that heavy braking zone going down into the hairpin.
Remember, no driver aids in these cars. They are pretty raw, as they are meant to be. Porsche Cup cars basically trying to test some of the best in this mark, and so far not able to get through as they come up to Tower and up towards Bishop. Back to Lauren Heinrich, still leading this race. He's been managing his own, Rachel, about almost 5 seconds ahead of Rafael Amorim. And what we've seen from Rafael recently in that zone group challenge, we know he's no slouch.
Yeah, Rafael's one of those consistent fast guys that you really want to keep an eye on. And yeah, Rafael came up pretty far. He's grown immensely over his time with PCA. See him running second here to someone like Heinrich is no small feat, and he's doing a good run. It's just, I think Heinrich just got the juice going today.
Absolutely. It's going to be hard to catch And just behind this second place car, let's take a look at Chris Pies, because Dimitri is still putting the pressure on. In fact, he's showing his nose a little bit. I didn't think that was a serious attempt, though. And Chris is able to hold him off through the first corner, just chops down to the apex confidently within about 0.2 of a second. That red number 11 this time a little bit more of a serious dive, as he's definitely now trying to make that 14 car think twice, DJ.
Yes, he certainly is. Let's see what his exit here is out of Gurney Bend and through the Big Bend. He's going to get a little bit of the draft here. Might be a little bit far back to try to make a move, but we've seen some very aggressive late braking. He's certainly going to show his nose to the inside, going to slot back into line, and then poke his nose again. Thinking about it a little bit, not going for it there, though.
Oh, and he's a little off on the corner, just kicking up some dirt. That hampers his corner exit. I'm a bit surprised he got that close, Rachel. I thought he was way too far back.
Yeah, it was a good lunge there as he went for it, but just not quite close enough to really stick it in. Hey, optimism is always something you'll find in race car drivers. They always think they're closer than they actually are. And it's often worth a try. You never know what will happen. Maybe lunging up at the mirrors of the guy ahead of you will put him off his braking point, but it's worth a shot.
Meanwhile, a little bit farther down, as we look at the battle for 10th, this is Sang leading Minkler and Dyer. They've also got a couple cars that are catching, Talkie and Schum. So this could become a bigger fight, a little bit of car contact between Dyer and Minkler coming through Tower, along with bounding over the curbs. I'm kind of surprised neither of them spun.
Yeah, I am too, Joe. The combination of that side-by-side lateral impact with the curbs there, very easy to upset the spring balance in these cars, just throw the weight off a little bit. Now they work their way down through Le Mans. This is going to be the moment of truth to see who's got a little bit better of a run. I've got to think here Dyer's going to be thinking about a little bit of a look on Minkler. He looks very, very close behind that red, white, and blue machine.
And we missed it through Sunset Bend. Dimitri has managed to get side by side with Pies. This could be it for third place as they come off the first corner, but Chris is going to fight back around the long way round of both left-handers, but he has to give up the ghost now as Dimitri just inches his way into the position.
Yeah, certainly is. And Dyer just spun from where he was running on track at 7th place. That is shaken up completely for him right now as up front here, these guys, oh, look on the side.
Oh, and he pinches him a little bit. They come together, a little bit in the grass, but Chris Pies manages to hold on to it. He somehow gets to the apex, slides a little bit wise, and Dimitri is going to have to give that spot back. It is getting elbows out as we watch the replay.
I cannot believe they were both able to keep that car on the road. There you can see that little bit of a fade there from Dimitri. I just don't think he realized Chris Pies was coming up in his outside like that. Pies able to get the car slowed down into the braking zone. Absolutely beautiful stuff there from both drivers.
It's maybe stock racing, but looking a little more stock car on the NASCAR side right now, as it is no holds barred for the 11 and the 14 to try and sort this out as we come down into 13th place. And Rutsitas now has the likes of Schum trying to attack him, but he can't hold out around Cunningham. Instead, Martineau runs out of space through Collier and eventually down into Tower. They all three get back in a line.
Yeah, looking to try and find a spot there to hold on, but you gotta just put the battling aside at one moment and try and get some more track position, and that means running together. Because at some point you're gonna need to do it, and still looking for something, but you've got to be careful as well to not ditch the rest of the field.
And Schum goes off through Jean de Bien. That's going to certainly be a slowdown penalty, I would think, for him. Yep. I see the black flag for him being waved as we come back to Dimitri once again, still with Pies, who somehow is back into third place. I'm kind of amazed, DJ, that he fought back and is still up in this third spot. I thought for sure that Dimitri would have this one done.
I'm amazed as well, Joe. I thought for sure when they came out through Gurney Bend, getting a little bit too close for comfort there. Ooh, a little bit of a slide there for Dimitri. I think that's going to slow him down and prevent any attack here. But back to the point, it was just sheer tenacity that allowed for Pies to get back on by, really and truly not taking no for an answer and taking a little bit of the crossover route coming through turn 2, just allowed him to really get the power down when he needed it.
Yeah, kicked up the dust coming out of turn 5 a little bit, and you can see the war wounds on the right-hand side of the red 14 there, with the scrapes now showing when he made that side-to-side contact with Chris and into Collier. They're about as spread apart as they've been for some time now, getting a small breather. The question is, Rachel, is this the calm before the storm?
Most definitely it is. This is the 20 minutes in point where these guys are just starting to settle here. They're trying to just make sure they've got some time, reset, and then prepare for the last attacks to get this latter half here where the positions really do mean everything.
Meanwhile, Joe still chasing on Kostanak. I don't know, is it just me, or is it a little small for the cup car as they come now through
Did you
Jean
really
Damien?
just make that remark?
I have no idea what you're talking about. As the 003 comes out of Le Mans and on to the Ullman straight. No, it doesn't quite have a long enough run here. He's not going to have the slipstream. Kostanak is just going to be able to stretch away.
Yeah, just able to pull out there. You can see the draft starting to come in a little bit there for Joe, able to pull him in. Now he's going to try to just take a narrower line off the exit of Sunset, not necessarily carry momentum, but just take that shortest route from point A to point B, but it still doesn't look like he was able to carry the speed he needed to through Sunset.
No, he's going to have to get closer than that to try and make this pass happen. But we've seen an ebb and flow out here up to this point. The drivers have sometimes been on it and other times have to back off maybe a little bit. I wonder if they're feeling a little bit of the tires with how hard some of them are racing as we take a glance at Lauren here, Rachel.
Yeah, I think so. They're pushing pretty hard, and without trash control and ABS, they're going to slide those tires a bit more, lock them up a little bit more, and it will have a bigger impact. So there's going to be more uneven heating on the tires, which will affect their performance.
Indeed, and while the tires can easily make 40 minutes, it's, those temperature concerns just overworking them, because there's certainly been plenty of sliding out on this old surface as well. Looks like I just saw a position change between Retsitas and Martineau, so I think the 98 gets himself up into 13th. And somebody kicking up dust here, coming off of Tower Corner there for a brief moment as we now jump our way up to Rich Minkler here, and this is a fight for 10th.
Yeah, and Minkler's been doing a good job here to try to regain a little bit. He was involved in that early lap kerfluffle, and so he's been holding on down 3 positions, trying to close down on Justin Sang right now.
And with us having passed halfway, it's time to bring you the Midway Race Report presented by Porsche. Starting up at the front, Lauren Heinrich on the pole. A little bit of a challenge at the start of this race, but otherwise it's been a slow and steady pull away from the field to a comfortable lead of 7 seconds over Rafael Amorim. A lonesome race for the number 8. He's been stuck in second, hasn't been able to chase down P1, but has also been well clear of third up to this stage. Chris Pye's not been lonesome, and in fact, actually, this is about as lonesome as it's been for a number of laps. He is about 1.3 seconds ahead of the next car back. He's been in intense battles up to this stage as we now take a look at the man who has been battling him, Dimitri Damakos there, one of our pro drivers here in the 11, giving us some stunning door-to-door battling there in these Porsches here at Sebring. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more before this is over. Back down to 5th, it is Arthur Chan, and this is the sort of race I'm used to seeing from Arthur, from what I remember of him many years ago. Just a cool, calm driver. He can certainly hold his own in fights, but usually just kind of runs his own race. After that, you've got Chris Walsh, who is running in the 6th position. He's getting a little close to Arthur, but he's about 1.1 seconds back. The Hardpoint Motorsports Pro is going to have to get a little bit closer than this to try and make a real challenge. Then in 7th, DJ, you've got Bill Anderson, who is running in that 7th spot, having started from 14th and climbed his way forward. PCA pro driver who is certainly holding it down.
Well, that was up 7 positions, may be impressive, but it's nothing compared to the 11 that Derwin Kosternak has currently gained, starting all the way down in 19th. But he's got a battle on his hands right now with P9, and that's Joe Stiefel there in that number 003 machine as that battle continues to rage on. Behind them, it is Justin Sang in the 88 machine, the driver out of the Golden Gate region. He's also involved in that battle we've been keeping our eye on with Rich Minkler, who rides directly behind him in the 76. A little ways back from them, it's Grant Talkie, who is up 4 positions on the day. The Suncoast Florida region driver working his way around, and Liam Rusidis rides around behind him. Liam Rusidis and Cameron Martineau in a very, very fierce battle. So it's Martineau right now in 13th, Rusidis in 14th as they break down into Sunset. I think that's going to be Rusidis that may be able to hold it out, and it looks like Martineau's going to have the preferred line, but that's the next 7 drivers here, Rachel.
Yes, it is. Leif Peterson there in 15th place. Peterson has had a great run so far, but he's down from 10th where he started. Unfortunate day for him so far. Looking next, Robert Rose in P16. Started 15th today, running 16th overall. They're a PCA Pro from the Shenandoah region. 17th is Jacob Schum, PCA Pro as well from the Carolinas region. Started 12th, currently down in 17th, 5 spots lost. And a big sideways drift there, not doing his tyres any favour. 18 is Jordan Dyer there, another PCA Pro, Schlansan region, from 7th today back into 18th. Another rough day with some incidents early on. Into that Porsche looking a little bit worse for wear.
And this concludes tonight's race update brought to you by Porsche. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this series. And 18 drivers left on the track. I wonder if we're going to have fewer than that because Rutsidas just popped into pit lane. And do not see a black flag for him. So I wonder if he just had too much damage. Yeah, I see a checkered flag next to him. So that might be day done for Leon from here. No, excuse me. I was looking at another driver. It's not day done. You might be able to get that back out. Grant Talkie in the meantime in 12th position. He is chasing down Sang and Minkler as they come through Jean Debian and into Le Mans, the ever critical exit DJ onto the backstretch.
Yeah, this is so crucial to try to carry the speed through that corner. You want to try to cut a little bit of that interior curbing, let it carry out as long as you can. As we watch the 88 of Justin Sang powering his way down, as you said, so crucial. You want to get the maximum amount of momentum. You want to get the maximum amount of speed coming down here into Sunset and then carry that speed through this everly difficult corner.
Ooh, we've had a pass for 5th. Chris Walsh managing to get by Arthur Chan through turn 1. Nicely done, outbreaking him into that one. Let's take another look at it, Rachel.
Yeah, see what Walsh does here is heading up behind him now. The Harper Motorsports driver sets up for the run into 1. Telegraphs it easy. He gets up the inside there. No real defense seen from 50. He just knew it was coming. There's no chance to defeat that.
Like I said, Arthur doesn't really make a big fuss typically, and I think he's just trying to bring this one home. He's still up 3 positions from 9th where he began this race. Down to the hairpin, another little fight from Joe and Derwin once again. Poor 003 car has been all up and down the place, and he's still back to where he began this thing. Kostenak ahead by roughly a half a second. That's not going to be quite within reach as they break for Cunningham.
No, not quite within reach, but I've been very impressed by Stiefel and his ability to be able to keep up behind. This is another battle, though, that battle between Minkler and Sang that continues to rage on. Justin Sang holding on to the back of Rich Minkler and really, really trying to hassle that number 76 as much as possible. But he's also got to keep a rear view mirror in his eyes because Grant Talkie's not too far behind him.
That's for sure. We take a look at Grant's perspective and using the windshield wiper. I think, I'm not sure if that was a recent feature, but I did see on the forum someone had denoted that. So looks like rain is getting ever closer, and maybe this is one of the cars that they're just prepping for that one. Coming down the straight, this is looking good for Sang. He is getting right up in that slipstream. Does he dare? No, Rachel, it looks like he's not willing to risk it into Sunset Bend this time.
Yeah, a little bit early still for that sort of level of move. You don't want to do it too soon, otherwise things will get a little bit spicy as someone who's invested mighty.
Absolutely, and coming up into turn 1, Sang just keeping that pressure on. This time not quite as close. In fact, Talkie's getting ever closer behind them. We try and pull a fast one on Justin, not into this corner, although he's very deep into turn 3. No, it's going to be Rich Minkler, who is forced into an error, goes off through the grass, and he falls down to 12th.
And Joe, that's exactly the kind of thing that Justin Sang wanted to see have happen. Just keeping that constant pressure up behind can force a driver like that into an error as we jump back with Arthur Chan.
Hasn't given up on Chris Walsh. He's sticking with him even after that overtake. Chris ran him down, managed to sneak by, but still within certainly touching distance as they come through Collier and down towards Tower. You can see how much they're having to work the wheel. We talked about those bumps, Rachel, and that was a real graphic example.
Yeah, the bumps are crazy here. They really can be extreme at Sebring. And they'll set the car in the braking zone, as we've seen a few times tonight. So one to always keep an eye out on, because you never know when it's going to rock your world.
Down into Jean Debian. Chris just keeping him from being able to attack for now. Let's see who gets the better exit off of Le Mans, and looks to me like Chris Walsh is just about even with Arthur. And you can see the train of cars behind them. That's Bill Anderson, Kostnak, and Stiefel there, who are also kind of coming together. That'll be for 7th place if they do catch one another. Bill Anderson, one of those ones I was mentioning that has climbed up and up and up, and maybe those who had bad races are starting to catch him now and would like those positions back.
Yeah, it's always the thing that sort of seems to happen when you have a big kerfluffle right at the beginning of the race, Joe. Those drivers that find themselves out of position just have to claw their way back forward, and you really see just how good they are as they're able to put those moves on, get those moves done, and get their way back towards the pointy end of the field.
Anderson looks like he might be pulling away a little bit now. It's up to 1 second ahead of Kostnak. Someone ahead of him kicked up a little bit of dust. I think that was Arthur Chan, actually, who seemed to move a little bit wide going off the exit of turn 5. And then down into the hairpin. Things are now settling in. They're spreading apart. What was some super intense battles earlier, Rachel, is starting to look more like a chess match now.
Yeah, a little bit. So we'll have to see exactly what these guys get down to, but it's definitely keeping things alive and spicy.
There's some couple ones of them brewing, and they could erupt at any moment now. That might look a little bit dull from the outside, but that pressure cooker is building inside the cockpit. And we got to remember, this is the best of the best in the PCA. We, of course, tend to see that over in the pro class often. We see drivers come up and manage to put themselves at the top, and then DJ to be able to take themselves from that and be selected for an elite group is something else.
Yeah, Joe, this is really and truly the best of the best, and the best of the best of the best, proving out to be Lauren Heinrich here, just absolutely putting in a commanding drive, a gap of about 9.7 seconds right now, back to Rafael Amorim, and you and I, Joe and Rachel, we've all had the pleasure to be able to watch Rafael in multiple PCA events. Rafael is no slouch, and he is just putting the moves on him here.
Yeah, at 9 seconds ahead in only a 35-minute race so far, going to be 40 pretty soon here. That's pretty impressive. I'll have to do the math to figure out how many per lap, how many tenths per lap on average he's been stretching away. And then you see him cleanly coming off the corner. Back to the 190 of Kostnak, still sandwiched between Joe and Bill. And breaking down into turn 3. Hopefully everybody will be able to stay on track this time amongst them, which looks to be the case, thankfully. But a little bit of errors here and there. I'm seeing apexes missed, Rachel.
Yeah, people are getting a little bit sloppy towards the end of this. Maybe the tyres are a little bit more exhausted than they'd like to see. That's, of course, going to make these cars handle a little bit more dramatically as we get to the end.
Absolutely no pit stops, so it is straight from start to finish, having to manage what's underneath you. Hold on to your stuff and carry it. As we come out of Fangio, wrong fan, wrong track, as they come into Cunningham. And Bill Anderson is definitely doing a good job of keeping himself calm, keeping himself away from that 190 so he's not quite close enough to be able to attack. And I saw a bit of a slide there from the 190 even.
Yeah, I did as well. And Joe, one of the things we haven't really talked about here over the course of this race is the setups and how that can actually affect the way that these cars handle with the tires wearing off. The drivers are running a little bit more trimmed out, a little bit less downforce, trying to maximize their speed going down the Ullman straight or the front straightaway. That can really help to scrub off grip from these tires, scrub in that wear a little bit more. And so I think some of these drivers that you've seen pull off some really good moves on the straightaways, they may start to really start suffering here now in the later stages of this race.
Yeah, Kostanek has in fact gained, and it looks like Bill experiencing a little bit of that wear, that lack of pace, because it's now down to 0.3 of a second as they cross the line to start lap 18. Only 4 minutes left to go, but there's that old adage we always bring out, Rachel. It's one thing to catch a car, it's another to pass them.
Yeah, and they may not want to let you, especially at this stage of the race. They're going to fight harder than ever to keep a position they've gained, so they're going to have to watch out here if they don't want to get into late race trouble.
Indeed, we already saw a little bit of argy-bargy there with cars making contact to try and make passes stick. Will we get the blue and white 190 doing a bit of the same? Down into the hairpin. They're also, it looks like the 003 may be falling off somewhat. It's only 9/10, so it's not massive here, DJ, but he's going to have to get a little closer, because if they do start to fight, he's got a good opportunity there.
Yeah, he certainly does, and I think that's going to be on the mind here of Anderson and Kostanek, that they may not want to be too squabbly here in these last 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Really take a high percentage move here if you're Derwin Kostanek. You don't want to be caught into a side-by-side through multiple corners, because that is just going to open up the door to Joe Stiefel.
Before we get to the finish, I just want to confirm that the 05 of Rutsitas did DNF, and Grant Talkie is also out of this race. So we're down to 16 left of our 20 starters, of the last of them, Jordan Dyer, who had to stop in the pit lane to get some repairs in the meantime. Flying on down the Ullman Straight as we hop on board with Joe. Looks like the 190 way too far away from him, but the same thing, Bill Anderson just not allowing him to get the sort of run that he's needing.
Yeah, not quite what he wants to see at this stage. He really needed to have a little bit more. I think it is down to the tires. We talk about it a lot, but I think he's just not quite got the grip left to launch off the corners fast enough.
No, I don't believe so, but it is going to be white flag next time by for these drivers, because Heinrich is coming around out of Fangio right now. There you see him up into Cunningham. Oh, and did Minkler have a problem? Martineau just got a spot. That was going through turn 1, but this battle's going to carry on as they fly down towards turn 3. That's Martineau to the outside, but the black and whites is going to be able to pull it off as he defends on Minkler successfully.
Good defense there, and with 2 laps to go, that's exactly the kind of thing that he needs to be able to try to pull out here.
And of course, this is a Pro versus PCA Pro as well, so much on the line in terms of ego between them. The way to look is at those windshield banners. Martineau racing for the pros, Minkler racing for the PCA pros. Need a little bit of a more distinct name between them. That is a tough one to get going, as Heinrich is now going to come around and take the white flag. And look at that thing just bounce around over the bumps through Sunset Bend, but he's only going to do that one more time, Rachel.
Once more is all he'll need to get this one put in the bag, and it's been a very busy race for the 12 there. Or going as hard as he can, actually has 12th place, I should say. But really put a good lot of work in here. The 12 car pushing this one as hard as possible. Just really run this flawlessly. The gap's been about 10 seconds since about lap 3. he's held this thing all race long.
Yeah, it's looking like this is his race to lose at this point at over 10 seconds, now up to 11 I'm seeing on our timing screen. So unless he makes an error, nobody else really has much of a shot at trying to overtake him from here. Most of the drivers are pretty spread out, but we're still keeping half an eye on 7th, which looks like it's within half a second. Minkler, he may have made that pass. Actually, no, he got back past Martineau, it looks like. So Martineau seems to have lost that spot once again and fallen down to 12th. So that one's not over as we look at this three-way fight, DJ, between Anderson, Kostanak, and Stifel.
Yeah, and corners starting to run out here for Kostanak. He's really going to need to just focus on absolutely nailing the run from Tower Turn all the way down to Jean de Vienne and Le Mans. Really pushing it there, but he is about 0.8 of a second back. Stiefel looking like he may be able to challenge a little bit easier.
Not sure they're going to get many opportunities here. Cunningham is coming up, but he's too far back, which should take us to Heinrich, because down the Ullman straight, the number 12, who took the victory in the first race of the evening before we came to air, is going to make it back-to-back to kick things off. A marker has been set in the sand here in Florida. Lauren Heinrich is your victor here today for the first race of the season. Then behind him, Rafael Amorim coming home in second place, making himself another podium finish for the PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series. And Chris Pies is, well, finishing where he started things. He rebuffed Demakos despite being all over him and actually managing to get some overtakes done, but not able to complete. Meanwhile, here we go. Looks like Kostanak having a bit of a threat from the 003, but DJ, I don't think he's going to be close enough.
No, Joe Stiefel needed about one more lap to be able to get that to work. You see him poking his nose to the outside, but Anderson, Kostanak, and Stiefel, they're going to line up just like that, but we're side by side with Martineau and Minkler.
Minkler just manages to stay ahead of him. That wound up being about 1/10 of a second at the line. Peterson 13th, 14th for Rose, and Schum in 15th. So it looks like that will wrap things up. And we are going to take a look at our results here with, as we mentioned, Heinrich taking the win and Amorim finishing second exactly as they started. But it is a clear slant towards the pros as they deliver the opening blow in the battle between the two classes. Pies finishes in third. Dimitri Demakos, the next one, back third in his class, in that pro class, with Chris Walsh, 5th overall, and Arthur Chan, the next one, in 6th overall, but second amongst the PCA pros. You've got Bill Anderson in 7th today, with Derwin Kostanak finishing 8th, and Joe Stiefel will finish in 9th, with Justin Sang DJ finishing in 10th.
In 11th, it was Rich Minkler who was able to hold off that hard charge by Cameron Martineau. Leif Peterson behind them with Robert Rose and Jacob Schum, the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Jordan Dyer was one lap down with Grant Talkie, Liam Rutsitas, Billy Smith, and Dave Craig, all DNFs here on the day.
Thankfully, relatively few here for this race, and it looks like we're going to be talking to our PCA Pro winner first, but second overall, Rafael Amorim, who is just over 11 seconds back at the finish line this evening. Rafael, congratulations on a win in class, but a second overall. It looked like Lauren had just a little too much in both races for you tonight. What do you think it's going to take to try and run him down?
Probably a miracle. He's just so fast. Yeah, and for me, this is a win. I'm super happy, and to be only 10 seconds behind him is definitely a win. He's just such a fast driver. There's no way I can get anywhere near him.
Even still, what are your thoughts now in this first event, having had both races finished? It looked like both were a ton of fun. We saw some very close racing. Do you feel like this was a success?
Oh, absolutely. This was very fun, and it's such a privilege to be able to drive with such talented drivers and such like Lauren and others. So, yeah, I feel very privileged to be here, and definitely looking forward to the next race already.
I'm sure it should be an impressive one, having to go up against these real world Porsche Cup drivers. Are you feeling like you're learning things from them, watching them how they try and race these machines?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just watching Lauren kind of in front of me, trying to copy his line on what he's doing, and I could definitely pick up a thing or two, and I'm sure it's going to help us all to be racing alongside them.
Well, before we let you go, then, is there anybody that you want to give a big thank you to for today's double podium?
Absolutely. First, thank you to Porsche for sponsoring, and thank you for everyone that organized this series. This is amazing, a lot of fun, and thank you for all you guys at Podium. As always, a great job. And as always, I want to thank my wife. She's the one that always supports me, and I wouldn't be here without her.
Great stuff there from Rafael Amorim's back-to-back second places here in the PCA Pro GT3 Cup Series, sponsored by Porsche. Looks like DJ now has caught up with the overall winner, Lauren Heinrich.
I have indeed. Lauren, you absolutely ran away with that race and the first one as well. Talk me through your emotions right now.
Hi guys, thank you so much. Yeah, obviously it's a great feeling to start a season like this with 2 clean races. That was my goal, and I'm really, really happy to have made it. Yeah, for me it's 5 a.m. now, so it's really late. I'm quite tired, but really thankful to my team, 311RS Motorsport, also to Porsche to support the series, and to my sim racing team, Corner Sim Sport, for letting me do this.
Wow, you are running crazier hours than I normally do, my friend. So kudos to you. But what's coming up for you here in the real world? We hear you got some exciting stuff.
Yeah, so I'm the Porsche Junior this year. So I'll be supported in the Porsche Mobile One Super Cup, racing with Formula One in the European races. Next to that, I will be also racing in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland again, and also will do my Nordschleife permit. So it's quite stacked, and I hope I'll have a visit to the US also, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, we hope we could get you over here, and I wish you all the best of luck in that. Turning your attention back to the sim again, we head to Watkins Glen next time out. How do you think that's going to go? Do you think it'll be good there?
I like Watkins quite a lot. Yeah, it got recently updated by iRacing, so it's really fresh for everyone. I like the track. It's quite high speed. It's not as bumpy as Sebring, so that's quite nice. And I'm looking forward to see how it goes.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it as well, and watching you through this entire season, Lauren. Anybody you want to thank, though, for today?
Yeah, I want to thank Porsche for supporting the series. Obviously, to my team, 311RS Motorsport. Ryan was watching all the time. Really cool to see the support. To my sim racing team, Corner Sim Sport. And also to you guys, to the commentators for putting up the stream, and to all the organizers, PCA Sim Racing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and congratulations again. That was Lauren Heinrich, your victor here today. Joe?
Which is going to wrap us up. And of course, with that, we want to thank the sponsor of the series, Porsche, for helping make this a reality. But we'll see you next time for Series 8 at Watkins Glen on Wednesday, March 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern, live here on Podium Esports. And don't forget, of course, the next round for this, the next event, is going to be at Long Beach, March 31st as well. And thank you so much to Porsche one last time, and a big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, along with a thank you to our team tonight, DJ, Rachel, Ryan, Nick, and Dougie. Also, none of this would be possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing, sponsored by Porsche. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.